AITA for divorcing my wife after she introduced me to her boyfriend and claimed it was a joke. I am 32. I work in commercial real estate here in Pennsylvania. Nothing too flashy, just a steady income analyzing properties and negotiating lease agreements for a company that has been around since the 80s. I own a townhouse that I bought 3 years ago. I completely renovated the place myself over 6 months. We are talking new floors, an updated kitchen. I even retiled the bathroom because the previous owner had the worst taste imaginable. The kind of person who thought beige on beige with brown accents was the peak of interior design. The townhouse became my pride and joy. I spent my weekends at Home Depot learning about crown molding and watching way too many YouTube videos on how to apply grout. My dad helped with the electrical work because I did not feel like burning the house down. But I did everything else myself. I even built custom shelves in the garage for my tools, because I am that guy now. I met my soon-to-be ex-wife, Samantha, in 2018 at my cousin's wedding. She was a friend of the bride, worked as an event coordinator for some hotel chain, and seemed pretty normal. She laughed at my jokes and did not roll her eyes when I talked about interest rates and property values. For someone in my line of work, finding a woman who does not mentally check out when you mention commercial zoning laws is like winning the lottery. We hit it off immediately. She was fun, spontaneous, always planning elaborate dates at restaurants I had never heard of. She made me feel like I was actually living, not just working and going to the gym. We moved in together after 6 months, which, in hindsight, was probably too fast. But I was 27 and thought I had found someone special. Dating Samantha felt like being in one of those movies where the structured guy learns to loosen up. She took me to art galleries and weekend trips to random small towns. She even convinced me to try hot yoga once. That lasted for exactly 1 session before I decided that sweating that much voluntarily was not for me. But I appreciated her trying to broaden my horizons. She made me laugh, challenged me to try new things, and seemed genuinely invested in building a future together. Samantha's parents liked me well enough. Her dad, Robert, owned an auto body shop, a classic blue-collar guy who appreciated that I owned my own place and had a stable career. We would talk about the housing market and car maintenance at holiday dinners. Nothing deep, but there was mutual respect. Her mom, Lena, was nice, but always seemed a little distant, like she was permanently evaluating whether I was good enough for her daughter. They would visit maybe once every couple of months, and I always made sure the townhouse was presentable. Robert would inspect my renovation work and give his nod of approval, which felt good coming from someone who worked with his hands for 40 years. Lena would compliment my furniture choices while probably redesigning the whole thing in her head. Normal in-law dynamics. Things were good for the first few years. We settled into a comfortable routine where she planned our social life, and I handled the practical stuff like bills, home maintenance, and car trouble. She appreciated that I took care of the boring adult responsibilities so she could focus on being creative and spontaneous. A perfect balance, or so I thought. After 3 years together, we got married at a vineyard about 2 hours north of the city. A small ceremony, maybe 80 people, nothing over the top. I wore a suit I bought specifically for the occasion after Samantha vetoed my plan to just wear my interview suit. Apparently, getting married requires a different level of suit formality. Who knew? The wedding was nice. Her dad gave a speech about how I had better treat his daughter right. I gave a speech thanking everyone for coming and probably made too many real estate jokes. Samantha looked beautiful. I looked decent in my new suit, and everyone had a good time. Our honeymoon was a week in the Caribbean at an all-inclusive resort, where I got the worst sunburn of my life because I underestimated the equatorial sun. Now, this is where the prenuptial agreement comes in. Before we got married, I insisted we sign a prenup. Not because I thought Samantha was a gold digger or anything, but because I had worked hard for my townhouse and my savings. The real estate market had been good to me. I had made smart investment choices, and I wanted to protect what I had built. My townhouse had nearly doubled in value since I bought it. It went from $185,000 to almost $340,000 in 3 years because the neighborhood gentrified faster than anyone expected. A craft brewery opened 2 blocks away. Then came the coffee shops, then the yoga studios, and suddenly my working-class neighborhood was trendy. Property values skyrocketed. I had also inherited $75,000 from my grandmother 2 years before I met Samantha. I used some of that money for the townhouse renovation and invested the rest in a mix of mutual funds and real estate investment trusts. Nothing fancy, just steady growth. By the time we got married, that inheritance had grown to about $95,000. I wanted to make sure that money was protected. Samantha was not thrilled with the idea of a prenup. She pulled the whole offended routine at first, saying it meant I did not trust her, that I did not believe in our future, that I was already planning for our divorce before we were even married. Standard objections, but I stood my ground and explained it was about protecting what I had built before I met her, not planning for failure. She eventually came around. Her dad actually supported me on it. He said it was smart to protect my assets and that truly successful marriages could survive having a prenuptial agreement. That helped. We hired a lawyer and drafted something fair. She would not get anything from the sale of the townhouse or my premarital investments, but we would split anything we built together during the marriage. She would get spousal support for 2 years if we divorced. It felt reasonable to everyone. The prenup was pretty straightforward. Anything I owned before the marriage remained mine. The townhouse, my savings, my investment accounts, my truck. Anything we acquired during the marriage would be split 50-50. If we divorced, she would get $2,000 a month for 24 months to help her get on her feet. We both signed it, had it notarized, filed it properly, and that was that. Life after the wedding was pretty normal for the first 4 years. We both worked, split expenses, and took trips to places like Nashville and Austin. She advanced in her event coordinating career, starting to handle bigger corporate events. I moved up at my firm and started taking on larger commercial properties. We were living the typical successful young married couple dream. Samantha made a decent salary, probably around $48,000 a year. It was not amazing, but it was enough for her to cover her car, her personal spending, and her half of the utilities. I covered the mortgage since the house was mine, and we split groceries and entertainment. It was a fair arrangement that no one complained about. But around year 4, things started to change. Small things at first. Samantha started going out with her work friends more, coming home later, seeming less interested in our usual weekend routine. I figured she just needed more of a social life. Nothing to worry about. She had always been more of an extrovert than me. She started talking about this new work friend, Brittany. Brittany did this. Brittany said that. Brittany thinks we should try new things. Brittany apparently had opinions on relationships, marriage, and personal growth. Every conversation eventually circled back to the latest piece of profound wisdom Brittany had shared. Brittany worked as a senior event coordinator at Samantha's hotel. She supposedly had this incredible open-minded perspective on life. Divorced twice, no kids, lived in a trendy downtown loft. Samantha started adopting her phrases, her opinions, even her style of dress. Suddenly, my wife was buying clothes that looked like they were pulled straight from Brittany's Instagram feed. I met Brittany exactly once at a work happy hour Samantha dragged me to. The woman gave me a bad vibe immediately. Too loud, too invasive with personal questions. She was touching Samantha's arm every 5 seconds, like they had been best friends since kindergarten. Within 10 minutes of meeting me, she asked what my thoughts were on Samantha's sexual freedom. What kind of question do you ask someone's husband at a work event? Red flags everywhere, but I kept my mouth shut. Samantha seemed to really value the friendship, and I did not want to be the controlling husband who dictates who his wife can hang out with. Besides, I figured she was smart enough to see through any nonsense Brittany was selling. Turns out, I was wrong. Samantha started suggesting we needed to be more adventurous, not in a fun travel kind of way, but in a relationship kind of way. She started bringing up articles about modern marriages, about couples with different arrangements, about how traditional monogamy was just a social construct designed by religious institutions to control people. Total freshman philosophy class vibes. I would just nod along, because what else do you say to that? Sure, honey, marriage is a construct. So is my mortgage, but I still pay it every month. I did not think too much of it because she had a habit of going through phases. 1 month it was veganism, the next it was minimalism. They usually lasted about 3 weeks before she got bored and moved on to something else. But this phase did not end. She kept pushing the conversation, asking hypothetical questions about how I would feel if she wanted to explore connections with other people. She stressed it was not cheating, but ethical non-monogamy. I should have paid more attention to where this was going, but honestly, I thought she was just processing some early midlife crisis. And then last month happened, September 14th to be exact, a date now burned into my brain forever. Samantha texted me at work, Said she wanted to take me out for a nice dinner, that we needed to talk about our future. My mind went to couples therapy. Maybe she wanted to talk about having kids. Maybe she was unhappy with her job. Normal marriage conversations. We met at an Italian restaurant she picked. One of those trendy places where the menu does not have prices and the portions could fit in a shot glass. I showed up in slacks and a button-down, ready for whatever serious talk we needed to have. That is when I saw she was not alone. Samantha was sitting at the table with a guy I had never seen before, a younger guy, maybe 28 or 29, wearing one of those carefully assembled casual outfits that probably cost $400 but was designed to look effortless. Artfully messy hair, designer stubble, the whole Instagram influencer aesthetic. He stood up and shook my hand like we were closing a business deal. His name was Tyler. Of course his name was Tyler. He had that fake confidence energy of guys who describe themselves as entrepreneurs but really just have a LinkedIn profile. He gave me this weird, knowing smile, like we were all in on the same joke. I sat down, completely confused, looking at Samantha for an explanation. She had this nervous energy, fidgeting with her wine glass, smiling a little too much. The kind of body language that screams, "I am about to say something I know you are not going to like." And then she dropped it. "I wanted to introduce you to Tyler. He is my boyfriend. I have been seeing him for about 3 months, and I think it is time we were honest about my swinger nature. I need to unveil this part of myself. It is who I really am." I just stared at her, then at Tyler, then back at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for the hidden cameras to appear, waiting for literally any sign that this was some elaborate prank. Nothing came. "Your swinger nature," I repeated slowly. "Yes, I have always known I was not built for traditional monogamy. Brittany helped me realize I've been repressing my true self. Tyler and I connected at a conference last summer, and it just felt right. I know this might be a shock, but I wanted you to meet him so we could all be open about this new dynamic." Tyler nodded like she had just explained she was taking up pottery, not that she had been having an affair for 3 months. "I really respect what you and Samantha have built," he said with a rehearsed sincerity that made me want to flip the table. "I'm not trying to replace you or anything. We can all figure out what this looks like together. Figure out what this looks like together, like we were talking about a kitchen remodel." I just sat there for a solid 30 seconds, processing. My wife of 5 years had just told me in a public restaurant that she had been in an inappropriate relationship with Tyler for 3 months, framed it as discovering her swinger nature, and expected me to do what, exactly? Shake his hand and agree to a timeshare on my wife. Samantha jumped in before I could respond. "I know it is a lot to take in, but I think when you really think about it, you will see this could actually strengthen our marriage. Lots of couples explore alternative arrangements. It does not mean I love you any less. In fact, being honest about my needs shows how much I value our relationship." The mental gymnastics were breathtaking. She had broken my trust for 3 months, told herself a story about discovering her authentic self, and now wanted credit for finally being honest, as if I should thank her for telling me about her boyfriend in month 3 instead of month 6. Tyler nodded as if this all made perfect sense. "Samantha talks about you all the time, man. She really values what you guys have. This is just about adding to it, not replacing it." I looked at this guy, this walking J.Crew ad, sitting across from me, talking about my marriage like he understood it, like he had any right to an opinion on it. Then I looked at Samantha, who genuinely seemed to be expecting me to process this revelation and come around to her way of thinking. That is when something clicked. A strange calm washed over me. I realized I had zero interest in fighting about this, zero interest in arguing or trying to convince her this was insane. She had already made her choice. She had been making it for 3 months while lying to my face every day. "Good luck with that," I said, standing up. Samantha's face fell. "Wait. What? Where are you going? We need to talk about this." "No, we do not. You made a decision. I am making mine. Good luck on your swinger journey, or whatever you want to call it." I walked out of the restaurant, got in my truck, and drove home. I sat in the driveway for about 20 minutes, just staring at my house, processing what had just happened. My wife of 5 years had just introduced me to her lover and tried to rebrand infidelity as sexual liberation. Samantha came home maybe an hour later. I was sitting on the couch with a legal pad, already making a list of what needed to happen next. She walked in with this defensive energy, arms crossed, ready for a fight. "You did not even give me a chance to explain," she started. "Explain what exactly?" That you have been involved with Tyler behind my back for 3 months? That you decided you are a swinger now? Which part needs more explanation? It is not cheating if I am being honest with you about who I am. You were honest after 3 months of lying. That is not how honesty works. She sat down and tried to take my hand. I pulled away. I know you are hurt, but I really think if you gave this a chance, if you try to understand where I am coming from, we could make this work. Plenty of marriages survive worse than this. Survive. That is your sales pitch. Our marriage could survive you having a boyfriend. Why are you being so closed-minded about this? I am trying to include you in my journey, in my growth. Brittany says that men who cannot handle their partners exploring other connections are usually just insecure in their own masculinity. Brittany says, of course, this had her fingerprints all over it. I would bet money Brittany suggested the restaurant reveal. She probably told Samantha it was brave and authentic. She probably even helped her pick out the outfit to wear when introducing her husband to her lover. I want a divorce, I said simply. Samantha laughed. She actually laughed. You are being dramatic. You need time to process this. Give it a week. Think about it rationally instead of reacting emotionally. I am perfectly calm. You were unfaithful to me. You tried to reframe it as personal growth, and now you expect me to participate in your alternative lifestyle. I have no interest in any of that. I want a divorce. You cannot just throw away 5 years of marriage because of one knee-jerk reaction to something you do not understand. I stood up and walked into the bedroom. I pulled out the file cabinet where I keep important documents, found the prenup, made a copy, and put the original back. Samantha followed me, her tone shifting from defensive to desperate. Wait, are you serious? You are actually going to divorce me over this? Yes. But we can work through this. We can go to therapy. I can slow things down with Tyler if that would help you adjust. We do not have to rush into any decisions. You rushed into a decision 3 months ago when you started seeing him. I am just catching up. She tried another angle. Think about what we built together. Think about our memories, our plans. You are just going to throw all that away because I am being honest about my needs. You are not being honest. You are trying to manipulate me into accepting something I never agreed to. That is not honesty. That is coercion. The next morning, I called my lawyer, the same guy who handled the prenup. I explained the situation, and he literally started laughing. He said he had seen a lot in his 30 years of family law, but the restaurant lover reveal disguised as a sexual awakening was a new one. We initiated the divorce proceedings immediately. Pennsylvania has no-fault divorce, which meant I did not even have to prove adultery or anything. I just had to state that the marriage was irretrievably broken. Considering my wife had a boyfriend she wanted me to meet, I felt pretty confident in that claim. Samantha was moved out within a week. She packed her stuff while I was at work and left her key on the kitchen counter. I guess Tyler had room at his place. Or maybe she moved in with Brittany. I did not ask. I did not care. And then the real show began. About 2 weeks after I filed, my lawyer got a call from Samantha's lawyer. She was demanding the house. My house, the one I bought before I met her, renovated myself, and explicitly protected in the prenuptial agreement. Her argument was that she had lived there for 4 years and contributed to the upkeep by paying for utilities. My lawyer called me, trying not to laugh. Your ex-wife's attorney is claiming she is entitled to half the equity in the house because she contributed to the household. We have a prenup that explicitly states the house is mine. I know, he said. It seems her lawyer is hoping we will forget that little detail. He sent me Samantha's demands. She wanted half the value of the house, which at current market rates was about $170,000. She also wanted 3 years of spousal support instead of the 2 years stipulated in the prenup. Plus, she was demanding half of my retirement account, which was also protected by the prenup. She basically wanted to pretend the prenup did not exist. My lawyer drafted a response that was essentially a polite, legal version of absolutely not. He referenced the prenup about 12 times, included copies of the signed and notarized document, and reminded her lawyer that we had both had independent legal counsel before signing it. Samantha's response came through her lawyer, but it might as well have been written in crayon. She claimed she had signed the prenup under duress, that I had pressured her into it before the wedding, that she did not understand what she was agreeing to. None of which was true. We had spent 6 months negotiating the prenup before the wedding. She had every opportunity to object, to negotiate different terms, or to walk away entirely. She signed it because it was fair, and because she agreed to the terms. But this is where the story gets really good. After her lawyer's attempt to invalidate the prenup failed, Samantha started texting me directly. The first couple of messages were apologies. She had made a mistake. Tyler was just a phase. She wanted to work on our marriage. Typical post-consequence regret. I did not respond. Let her scream into the void. Then the messages shifted in tone. She was hurt that I was being so cold. Did I not care about what we had built together? Was I not willing to at least be civil? She needed money for rent. Her new place was expensive. Could I not at least help her out until the divorce was final? I did not respond to that either. Then came the aggressive messages. I was being petty and vindictive. She had given me the best years of her life. I owed her something for the 4 years she spent making our house a home. The prenup was unfair, and I knew it. She deserved half of everything, because that is what marriage meant. My lawyer advised me to screenshot everything, but not to engage. So I did. Every text, every voicemail, every email went into a folder titled Samantha's Meltdown, as potential evidence if things got really ugly. 3 weeks after I filed, Samantha called me from her mom's phone. I answered because I did not recognize the number. I thought it might be important. You actually answered, Samantha said, surprised. What do you want? I need you to understand something. The house, the money demands, that was not my idea. That was my lawyer being aggressive. I told him to push, but I did not think you would refuse to help me. The prenup says I do not owe you any of the house. We both signed it. I agreed to those terms, but that was before everything happened. Things are different now. I need that money to start over. You are being so cruel about this. I am abiding by the legal agreement we both signed. It is not fair. You have all that equity in the house, and I have nothing. You have a job. My job does not pay enough to cover a decent apartment. The next twist came when Samantha's dad called me. Robert, the guy who had spent holidays at my house, who had approved of my remodel work, and who had supported me on the prenup before the wedding. What happened between you two? He asked. No small talk. She did not tell you. She said you were divorcing her because you grew apart. She said she made some mistakes, but nothing that warranted ending the marriage. She said you are refusing to give her anything from the house, even though she helped maintain it. I told him the whole story. The restaurant reveal, Tyler, the swinger nature speech, the demands for money, even though the prenup clearly stated otherwise. He was silent the whole time. Finally, he said, she brought her boyfriend to meet you at a restaurant? Yes. And now she wants half your house. That is what her lawyer is asking for. He let out a heavy sigh. I am sorry. I had no idea. She painted a very different picture for us. The prenup is still valid according to my lawyer. It is, he said. Then you stand your ground. You protected yourself for exactly this kind of situation. Do not let her guilt you into giving her money she is not entitled to. That call helped more than Robert probably knew. To have her own father validate that I was not being unreasonable, that the prenup existed for this exact scenario, took a lot of pressure off. But Samantha was not done trying. A week before our scheduled preliminary divorce hearing, she played her last card. She showed up at my work. I was walking out of a meeting when the receptionist told me I had a visitor in the lobby. There was Samantha, dressed professionally like she was there on business, holding a folder full of papers. We need to talk, she said. No, we do not. Contact my lawyer. Just give me 5 minutes, please. Against my better judgment, I walked her out to my truck in the parking lot. I was not having this conversation in my office with my colleagues listening in. She handed me the folder. Inside were printed out Facebook posts, text message screenshots, even pictures from our wedding. I made a timeline of our relationship, she explained. All the good times, all the memories, everything we built. I need you to remember why we got married in the first place. I flipped through it. Wedding pictures, vacation photos, screenshots of loving text conversations from years ago. A scrapbook of a marriage that existed before she decided monogamy was a social construct. What is your point? My point is, we were happy. We can be again. I made a mistake. I know that. But mistakes should not end a marriage. You need to remember what we had before you throw it all away. You brought your boyfriend to meet me at a restaurant. I know. It was horrible judgment. I was confused. Brittany convinced me that being radically open about everything was the brave thing to do. I see how wrong that was now. And now you want me to pretend it did not happen. I want you to remember that one mistake does not erase 5 years of good times. I closed the folder and handed it back to her. You are right. It does not erase them, but it does end them. We are not getting back together. The divorce is happening. You are getting what the prenup says, and nothing more. Her face hardened. You are really not going to help me at all? After everything? After everything? You mean after you were unfaithful to me and then demanded money you are not entitled to? It was a joke, she blurted out suddenly. I just stared at her. What? The whole restaurant thing, it was supposed to be a joke. Tyler was just an actor I hired. I was trying to see if you would fight for me, if you still cared enough to get jealous. It was a stupid test, but that is all it was. You are taking this way too seriously. The lie was so absurd, I almost laughed. A joke that lasted for 3 months? That is some serious commitment to a bit. I am serious. Tyler is not even a real person. I paid him $500 to pretend to be my boyfriend for that dinner. I thought it would spark something between us, make you realize you could not lose me. It all went wrong, and I panicked. Samantha, I have seen the text messages between you two. Your lawyer literally submitted them as evidence, trying to prove the marriage was still viable. Months of conversations about hotel rooms and weekend trips. That is a very expensive joke. Her face fell. The lie crumbled in real time. Okay, fine. Tyler was real, but the swinger thing was a joke. I was never really a swinger. I just said that because Brittany told me it sounded better than admitting I had an affair. You are blowing this all out of proportion. I am getting a divorce. That is exactly the right proportion. She grabbed my arm. Please, I will sign whatever you want. I will drop all the claims on the house money. Just do not leave me with nothing. You are getting 2 years of spousal support. That is not nothing. That is $48,000 to fix my life. That is barely enough to survive on. You make $48,000 a year at your job. Between that and the support, you will have a $96,000 annual income for 2 years. You will survive. The preliminary hearing went exactly as expected. The judge reviewed the prenup, confirmed it was executed properly, and denied all of Samantha's claims to the house or my premarital assets. She got her 2 years of support. That was it. Samantha sat in the courtroom with a defeated look on her face. Her lawyer tried to argue that the prenup was unconscionable, that she would be left destitute, that I had far more resources. The judge was not having it. He said she had a job, she was receiving support, and she had agreed to these exact terms 5 years ago. The judge even seemed annoyed as Samantha's lawyer kept pushing. He had been practicing family law for 20 years, and you could tell he had seen every trick in the book. When her lawyer tried to claim Samantha had been coerced into signing, the judge asked to see the documentation. My lawyer produced emails showing Samantha had consulted with her own attorney for 6 months before finalizing anything. He showed communications where she had negotiated specific terms and gotten exactly what she asked for. The judge just shook his head and denied the motion. Samantha's lawyer tried one last angle, claiming she should get more because she sacrificed her career potential to support mine, except she had not. During our marriage, she had advanced in her own career. She received 2 promotions, and her salary had increased by almost $12,000 in 5 years. The judge pointed out that making $48,000 a year with regular promotions was hardly a career sacrifice. I watched Samantha realize she was not going to get what she wanted. I watched her lawyer pack up his briefcase with that defeated energy lawyers get when they know they took on a losing case. I watched her mother try to comfort her while shooting daggers at me from across the room. Lena, it seemed, had completely bought Samantha's version of events and decided I was the villain in this story. Robert caught up with me in the hallway afterward. He apologized again for how everything had played out. He said Lena was being difficult about it, refusing to accept that Samantha had done anything wrong. He understood, though. He said he had seen enough in his years to know when someone was trying to rewrite history to make themselves look better. She made her bed, he said, looking tired. Now she has to lie in it. I just wish she would stop trying to pull you down into it with her. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, just tired and ready for this chapter to be over. The Pennsylvania winter was starting to set in, that sharp cold that cuts through your jacket no matter how many layers you wear. I sat in my truck for a few minutes with the heat blasting, watching Samantha and her mom drive away in Lena's car. Samantha looked back once, probably hoping I would come after her or something. I did not. That was 3 weeks ago. The final divorce decree will come through in about 6 months, once the waiting period is over. Samantha has since moved back in with her parents. According to mutual friends, Tyler is apparently already dating someone else he met at the same conference where he met Samantha, another married woman, from what I hear. Because apparently, the guy has a type. Brittany got fired from the hotel for something unrelated to this drama, though I like to think karma had a hand in it. The situation with mutual friends has been interesting. Most of them were her friends originally, people from her work or college. Out of about 15 couples we regularly hung out with, I am in contact with exactly 3. The rest either ghosted me completely or sent awkward texts about staying neutral and hoping we can all still be friends when the dust settles. Only one couple, Marcus and Elena, actually reached out to hear my side of the story. They had been to my house for dinner probably a dozen times. They knew both of us pretty well. When Marcus heard the story about the restaurant reveal, he texted me, "Dude, I thought I had heard it all. That is next level crazy. Tyler, at a restaurant. Did she expect you to high-five him, or what?" Elena's response was even better. She apparently confronted Samantha at some event about the whole thing. Samantha tried to paint it as me being closed-minded and unwilling to work on our marriage. Elena told her straight up that introducing your husband to your lover is not working on your marriage. It is ending your marriage with extra steps. They are not friends anymore. The work situation got a little weird, too. Someone at Samantha's hotel must have gotten wind of the divorce because I started getting random connection requests on LinkedIn from her coworkers. I was not sure if they were just being nosy or what, but I ignored most of them. One woman I had met a couple of times, Alyssa, did send me a message apologizing for not seeing the signs of what Samantha was up to. Apparently, the whole Brittany's influence thing had been obvious to everyone at work except me. According to Alyssa, Brittany had basically been coaching Samantha for months on how to handle the affair, telling her which conference hotels had more privacy, how to justify coming home late, and even what to say to sell the whole ethical non-monogamy angle. The entire office apparently knew something was going on between Samantha and Tyler at that conference. They had been seen together at the hotel bars, leaving sessions early to go back to their rooms. The whole cliché corporate affair package. The thing that really got me was that Samantha's coworkers had a betting pool on how long it would take me to find out. A betting pool on the end of my marriage. Alyssa told me she had bet on me finding out in under 6 months, and she lost because it took longer than that. I did not know whether to be insulted or impressed by the audacity. The house situation has been better than expected. With Samantha gone, I have actually started enjoying the place again. The first thing I did was change the locks, not because I thought she would try to come back, but because I needed a psychological reset. New keys, new start, all that. Then I repainted the bedroom. Samantha had insisted on this dusty rose color that I hated from day one. I covered it with a slate gray. It took me a Saturday and about 4 coats to cover up that pink, but it was worth it. Standing there with paint on my hands, music playing, just enjoying my own space, it felt like reclaiming something. I had been working on house projects I had put off. I finished the basement properly, turning it into a workshop and entertainment space. Built a bar out of reclaimed wood. Installed proper lighting. Put in a good sound system. My dad came over to help with the wiring. We spent a whole weekend on it. We did not talk about the divorce much. We just worked and listened to classic rock. The renovations have been therapeutic, having something concrete to work on, to see progress, to build something that is entirely mine. Samantha always had opinions on everything. That the bar was too masculine, that the lighting was too harsh, that we did not really need a workshop. Now, I just make my own decisions. As for me, I am still in my townhouse, still doing my job, still living comfortably. The only difference is, now I am doing it without a wife who thought introducing me to her boyfriend at an Italian restaurant was a reasonable way to unveil her authentic self. Comment. What I truly hope you take away from this is the incredible power of choosing your own peace. Sometimes, the quietest response is the most powerful statement of self-worth you can make. You always have the right to define what is acceptable in your life and what is not. Taking responsibility for your own happiness and security is never something to apologize for. Healing often begins the moment you decide to stop participating in the chaos. It is about actively rebuilding your space, your routine, and your sense of self. Be kind to yourself through the process, even when it feels difficult or lonely. Protecting your boundaries is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of profound self-respect. Remember that your dignity is not negotiable, and you deserve relationships built on mutual respect. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.